This is day 13, the weight of the badge. This will be the second video I posted today. So I wanted to start off the first video today showing that I practice what I preach. You have to take the time to look at your life and reflect on what's going on and be able to clean stuff out, be able to get rid of all the junk that's in there, and be able to reflect and evaluate yourself. And sometimes you have to clean all that junk out of your life. You need to look at where you're at. Today I had to look at all that and decide what I was keeping, what I was getting rid of. And that is, frankly, not an easy thing to do sometimes. But now that I have gotten rid of all that, gotten all that junk, that clutter, everything out of there, now it is time for me tomorrow to start looking at how I'm going to take what I've got left and reorganize it and refocus where I'm at, where I'm going, what I need to get done. That's where the second part of this comes into. So the stuff that I didn't get rid of, the stuff that I leave in my life, I need to learn from that. I need to go in and I need to look at what has brought benefit, what has not brought benefit, what has been a negative experience, and what I can learn from it. And from doing that, you learn how to reframe the trauma that you've gone through. Because no matter what the trauma is, you can always get something good out of it. Every time I've done peer debriefings, even for the worst incidents, we're able to see the positive that was in there. Whether it was something as simple as teamwork, as having each other's back, noticing the good things that somebody did here or there, noticing that nobody, delayed in doing anything. They jumped right into it, knew what they were doing, and knocked it out. You need to do that with the experiences that you've got in there and with your traumas. And that is usually not, it sounds like an easy thing to do, and it's not. And it's not something you're going to do overnight. A lot of times it's not something you're going to do on your own. From talking to other people, they may point out something that was good, some change that they've seen in you. They may have a perspective on what you went through that you can't see, even though it's right under your nose. I've found for me that I can sit and help people all day. I can listen to an incident, somebody's trauma, some stress that they're having, and I'm able to provide them some guidance, give them some strategies, some tools to use that might help them out a little bit, that might help them start to move forward. But with my own stuff, I've noticed that even if it's right under my nose, I can't do that. I can't see the simplest things. So when I'm going through stuff and looking to reframe things and try to get different perspectives, I found one of the best strategies is to write everything down, to journal, and then set it aside. A day or two, go back and look at it again. It almost becomes like looking at someone else's stuff. And that's just been my experience with my own stuff. Going to counselors, talking to them, they ask you a lot of open-ended questions, and in answering that, a lot of the times you have that aha moment, and you start to see the things that they do, but that you couldn't. I try to take that just in everyday life and try to, as I'm trying to learn something, or if I'm part of a new committee or whatever it may be, I try to look at things through other people's eyes. I try to learn from everybody to see the different perspectives, because when you do that, you look at things through a different lens. A lot of the times you see stuff that you didn't see through your own eyes, through your own experiences. And I found that I've grown a lot just by doing that. But it's hard to do that because you've got so many things ingrained in you. All the points of view that you have are based off of where you grew up, what you grew up with, the neighborhood you grew up in, your family, the people that you hung out with. Your opinions become based on that. And to be able to step back from that and non-judgmentally look at things through somebody else's eyes, it gives you a much clearer perspective on the areas that you didn't look at before. But as I said, very hard to do. I've told people it'd be great if we could all look at the world through the perspective of a child. They don't have the biases. They don't have the stereotypes. And I've noticed that watching my kids growing up, they don't care what somebody looks like. They don't care what they act like. They don't look at somebody and make a judgment right off the bat. They want to be everybody's friend. They want to, they just want to walk up and say hi. They want to give each other a hug. At the end of the school day, they would run over and hug each other. At what point do we lose that? And it's sad because we all do at some point or another in our life, whether it's, whatever the experience is, when that starts setting in, because you miss out on meeting so many interesting people, having so many interesting experiences that you would never think about doing. One of the things I have the privilege of doing now is I co-chair a group on health and wellness, body image, social anxieties bi-weekly, and I've told that group it's a group of people that under regular circumstances I probably would never have interacted with. You get into the field of being a first responder, being in the military, and you gravitate towards those same individuals. That's who we hang around with, especially in law enforcement. We hang around with law enforcement and we lose our perspective on the outside world. We see all the negatives, we see all the bad stuff in the world. We spend a lot of our time, if we go out to eat, with our back against the wall, facing the door. If we're at a party, we're against the wall and we're watching everybody. We're looking for the exits, we're looking for tactical things. If this goes down, what are we going to do? You spend your entire life doing that. So, my last year at grad school, I had to find a group to sit in on to watch the process, and I rushed through reading the assignment, and I didn't ask questions about it. I was just like, all right, I'm going to find a group. And I found this group, and I was like, this sounds kind of interesting, so I'm going to go sit in on it. Turns out the group that they wanted us in was a NA or AA meeting, or an Al-Anon or Alateen, whichever one. They wanted us in a group like that. So I ended up having to change groups, but I stayed with that one. And I've been there now for over 3 years with this group. And the perspectives that I've gotten from these folks, the lessons I've learned, getting to look at the world through non-first responder eyes. I've got so much from this group, probably a hell of a lot more than they've got from me. But it was hard in the beginning because this wasn't a group of people that I would normally gravitate towards. And I had to be very concentrated in my efforts when I would go into these groups to be focused on the purpose of the group. Now it's just like hanging out with a bunch of friends. I've learned so much from these folks. They've kept me on track with things down the road. They were the reason. They motivated me to finally put out my first kids book that I had written and sat on for a year out of fear of failing. So, you know, when you look at, you take advantage of those opportunities, and you are able to do that with yourself. You're able to look from the outside in. You can see the areas where you need help. You can see the areas where you need to grow. It's just like if you're putting a team together, you don't want to have a team of all the same people. If you're the team leader, you want to know your strengths and your weaknesses, and you want to surround yourself with people, whether it's in business, whether it's a tactical team, whatever it is. You want to have a group of folks that make each other better. I may be weak in communications. I need to find somebody that's good in communications. I may be strong in tactical planning. I don't need to have everybody on the team there. I need to have people that complement my shortcomings. And it's easy to do when you're able to look from the outside in at yourself. And you need to do that in your personal life when you're going through this whole process that I've talked about in the garage. My second phase with this tomorrow, when I start going through all the things that are left in there to reorganize, I need to take what's sitting there, go through that, and determine whether this is stuff that in reality I need to keep, whether it is stuff I can get rid of, whether it's stuff I can pack away or something I need to use. The same way when you're going through traumas. One of the hardest things with that, when you begin down that path where you're ready to start talking, you're ready to start healing, and you start looking for a counselor, people will go to the first one they can find. And the hardest thing for me was finding that person that I clicked with, that got me and that I felt comfortable talking to. You need to find the puzzle pieces that fit together with you. You need to look at the tools that that counselor may provide you. They may have worked for everybody else that's walked through that door, but for you they don't. Those are the tools you need to pitch to the side. You need to find the tools that work. It's like when you're going through the stuff in the garage. What do I need to keep? What do I need to keep out? What do I need to act on? Is there something in here that I may have started years ago and forgot about? Do I act on it, or do I throw it to the side? So when you're looking, you're doing that outside in perspective on yourself, after you've written down stuff, after you've journaled, and then you go back to look at it again. What's working for you? What, when you are starting to get stressed, how do you handle it? Do you go exercise? Does that make you feel better? Does watching something funny make you feel better? Talking to other people, is that what does it? Is it driving at night? Going hiking in the mountains? Learning your triggers. Learning, whenever I do this, I start to go down that rabbit hole. But when I go down the rabbit hole, this is what I can do to get out of it. When you start learning those things, when you start learning your triggers and how to respond to them, that's gold right there. It's just like going through that garage and finally getting it organized. If you haven't looked at the video I posted this morning, take a few minutes and look at it, and you'll see what a mess that garage was. And it represents, I said, when you go into that room, you'd be surprised how much it represents you. That garage represented everything at that moment perfectly. After my dad passed, and then taking the time off to work on that, getting back into work, finishing up teaching for the semester. It was a mess. I was working literally between those three things 7 days a week, probably 15 to 18 hours a day, trying to get myself feeling like I was caught up. And you cannot survive like that. It takes a toll on you, and it took a toll on me. And it finally got to the point where I had to step back and say, this isn't good for me. I'm not doing this anymore. I need to take care of me right now. So I had to pull back from stuff. Like we talked about the other day, with when you say, I'm going to be there for you whenever you need me. No, you're not. You're not. You know, be honest about that. It's a great thing to say. It feels good when you say it, because it's one of those sayings that we throw out there all the time. It's kind of like when you walk by somebody in the hall and you're like, hey, how are you? And they start telling you, instead of giving you the traditional, I'm good, they start telling you everything that's going on, and you're like, oh God, why did I do that? It's not that canned response we're expecting when we ask that canned question. And that's what we're doing when we say, I'm there for you 24/7 whenever you need me. My phone's on. I'm guilty. I've got that speech down. Because not only, and Chris has talked about this as well, and, you know, not only are you not going to be there for them, and that's going to leave them thinking that, one, you lied to them, and two, they're not worth your time. And then on the flip side of it, you feel horrible because you're a helper. And when you get up and you realize you missed that call, you didn't answer that text, or you were going through something and you knew you couldn't handle it right now, so you just didn't respond, later on you feel horrible for it. If you're anything like me, you feel absolutely horrible for it, and there's nothing wrong with doing that, because you can't take care of everybody. You have to take care of yourself first. People see right through your bullshit. If you stand in front of a group of people and talk about fitness and training and how important it is, and you look like you haven't seen the inside of a gym your entire life, people see through that. When you stand in front of somebody or a group of people and you tell them, you know, you need to get your sleep, you need to eat right, you need to do this, and you look like you've drank 4 pots of coffee and you're sitting there twitching, people see through that. And the first thing they're going to think is, why the hell should I take advice from this fool? When you take care of yourself first, when you live the life that you're preaching to people, telling people about, your word is awesome. It's gold. I was watching Meg's video today, and she talked about detours, or roadblocks not being detours. And it was such a great message. She talked about how she needed to remember that she can't carry a pound for every person right now, every suicide right now, because she hasn't worked out in a long time. She's had 10 knee surgeries. She's in touch with herself. She understands that. Most of us knuckleheads in this field, we try to tough through everything. You see one guy doing it, you may not have worked out for 20 years. You go to defensive tactics training, you see one of these young guys blowing the hell out of the bag, and you go out there and start hitting and kicking the bag thinking you're Bruce Lee, and the next thing you know, your knee's blown out. You go out for fitness testing, you see these young guys out there running 2-3 miles at a time, and you haven't run in 10 years, but you're going to go out and keep up with them because you have to. You're a guy. Here he goes getting in the way. You're a first responder. That's what we do. You make it about a quarter way around the track. and then you're sucking wind, bent over trying to make it back to your car. You need to know your boundaries. And that all comes into perspective when you do this. When you're able to step back and look at yourself, you're able to get the view that everybody else does. In our minds, we're all Supermen. We all have an S on our chest under our uniforms. Because that's what we do. You know, shit hits the fan, we're the ones running in, everybody else is running away. So we have to be badasses. I used to fight, and I was training for a fight in 2012. It was October of 2012 when this happened. I was supposed to go up to Jersey and fight. And, you know, I think at the time I was 40. I think I was 40. You know, I was like, I can do this. I had just gone and competed in a tournament and got second place in this tournament, and I had to drop down and fight 20-year-olds because nobody in my weight division wanted to fight. And the guys that were above me in the other divisions, in the older divisions, promoter asked them if any of them wanted to fight, and they looked at me and said no, for whatever reason, because they were probably a hell of a lot better trained than I was. But I was training, I'm rolling that day, and next thing I know, my neck pops, and I lose feeling in my arms, probably for about 30 seconds. Scariest damn feeling, second scariest damn feeling. I'll get to the first one in a minute. But I knew something wasn't right. I didn't know what it was. Feeling came back. My arms got changed. I go home and I start looking around and make an appointment to go to see a spine and neck surgeon. I don't remember the terminology for him, but a spine guy. And I go in there and they're looking at my neck and send me to get the MRIs, and they come back and he's like, I think you have early onset MS. So I start reading up on this, and all the signs and symptoms are there. So they sent me to a neurosurgeon because of the scans of my neck and my brain that they took. And the scans of my brain, and then the neurosurgeon comes in and starts laughing. He's like, you don't have MS. He's like, you got spots all over your brain from being punched in the head, from playing football, from doing wrestling and all that shit. They went back and they did a scan of my neck. I go back to the surgeon and holds his finger up in a circle, and he says, you've got about a quarter inch of that circle, one sliver of it that's not broken. He said, have you had gone up and fought and gotten kicked in the head, put in a chokehold, anything, your neck could have snapped and you would be paralyzed. So they scheduled the surgery. They go in. At that point, they told me that they thought I may be able to still do stuff, still be able to fight. So they took out 5, 6, and 7, fused it all together. I'm at home for the 10 days that I can't drive, and come back for the follow-up 2 weeks later, and he brings me in the office, and he said everything's fused together good. But you're never going to be able to fight again. You're not going to be able to roll. You can't be competitive. You can't do the mud runs, all that crazy nonsense that I was doing at the time. So needless to say, depression sets in. I mean, imagine having something that you love doing and there's no warning. It's just all of a sudden you can't do this anymore, and you could have been paralyzed. So fast forward, I did good. I behaved myself. I followed everything, and then I went up. Wasn't doing anything, just out walking around. My neck had started getting, a little weird feeling a little bit before, and I talked to him, but he was like, yeah, we gotta, they went in, they checked it, gave me some cortisone shots in my spine, which were a real gem. And then standing one day, was out of some store or mall or something, I forget what it was. It was one of the clothing stores, and I lost feeling in my arms again. And then my legs gave out. And again, it wasn't a long-term thing. It was, 30 seconds. It wasn't very long. It might have been less than that. It might have been a little more. When you are in a position where you can't, your brain is telling you to do stuff. It's telling you to move your arms. It's telling you, and you can't. That's a scary feeling. So I called him up, told him what happened, was in his office, and it was 2 weeks later. I was scheduled to have surgery. They had sent me for an MRI. It was the next day. And this time, 2 had deteriorated, and there was bone protruding into my spine. So, and I guess the ones beneath that up to 5, was it 3, 4, 3 and 4 must have been not looking good, because I had the MRI, brings me in, and he says, here's the deal. We have to do surgery, and we have to do it quickly. You have 2 options. I can not do it, and you will eventually never walk again. I can do it. I can't guarantee you that you'll walk again, but I can guarantee you you'll have the opportunity to maybe walk again, and you will never be a cop. Again, after this, I've never had any first responder return to work after this, because they had to go in and they had to pull 5, 6, and 7 out and fuse from 2 to 7. He said if 1 had been affected, there was absolutely nothing that they could do. 2, they could, but there was a lot of risk involved. But it was better than the alternative. So by that point, I didn't lift weights after the first surgery, but I did a lot of cardio on the elliptical machine, because there was no pounding. It was safe. I talked to him. I would run miles a day on that thing. And after the first surgery, I ballooned up. I was somewhere in the vicinity of 340 pounds. And I generally, when I was fighting before, I was usually down around 240, 250. Ballooned up to 340, and so after I finally got out of that funk after the first time, when he told me I couldn't do any of that anymore, I got myself into pretty decent shape. Right after I lost the feeling in my arms and legs, and I knew there was going to be another surgery, I started doing the Whole30 diet. If you haven't heard of that, it's 30-day. It's almost like a cleanse for your system. You take all the sugar out. You're pretty much eating all raw food. There's no junk in it. Everything it's clean eating. And I ended up, I think the day I went in for surgery, I was down to close to 250. Might have been 255 or 245. It was about 10 pounds either way. Other than my neck, felt amazing. And I went in to see him. It was a couple of days. I had to do the pre-op stuff, and I saw him. That was the time where he told me that thing about not being able to be a cop anymore, and very probably not being able to walk. So I came home. I didn't tell my family. And I gotta tell you, I've done a lot of shit. Been into a lot of bad incidents. That was the scariest couple of days of my life. The night before the surgery, I stood in my kids' doorways and I just looked at each of them. And I stood there and I cried because I didn't know if I was going to be able to play with them. When I got up the next day, after that surgery was over, I went to bed. Actually, I didn't sleep that night, but that night I kind of tossed and turned and just reflected on the fact that I may never be able to put a uniform or a badge on again. It's just kind of sad that I had let my career become the way I defined myself, my existence. And to hear that could very possibly be gone scared the hell out of me, because who would I be after that? But I'll tell you what came of that. And when I got into the hospital in the morning, I just kept telling myself, when I wake up, I start moving my head. It's going to go one or two ways. It's either going to be I'm starting off in a whole new way of life, because that's what he told me. But I told myself from the minute that happened, and I believe I even said to him when he told me that nobody had returned to work full duty. And I told him, I said, obviously you don't know who you're talking to. It's not happening. And I kept positive, and it was scary. I had my moments where I was isolating myself and crying and all that nonsense, but I kept telling myself, I can do this. This is in my head. I can do this. And I told myself, the minute you wake up, start moving your head, because I had heard the stories about people's necks getting frozen to the point where they could hardly turn it. So they did the surgery. The doctor came in and talked to me. Remember, they wheeled me in and he asked me what I wanted to hear, what I wanted to listen to, and I told him, I said, I think it's more important that we worry about what you want to listen to right now. I don't need you having any mistakes. And I remember as they were giving me the anesthesia, Enter Sandman came on, blasting in the OR. And that was one of the songs I walked out to. It's a good sign. I woke up, I don't remember how long the surgery took, but I remember I woke up and the nurse slapped me on my shoulder and she said, all right, get your big ass up and walk to your room. And I'm not a religious guy. That's another talk for another evening. I struggle with that. I try my best, but again, like with most things with me, I follow my ass. But I woke up and she said, get up and walk your big ass to the room. I thank God we got up and I had no pain whatsoever. It was the greatest feeling ever. And I got into the bed and I started turning my head from side to side very slowly and said, this is the road back and this is where it begins. And I'm going to work my ass off because I'm not walking away from what I love doing. And I'm not. This to me was a second chance and it was a new beginning. And one of the things when I was, the time before that surgery, and the day I was in the hospital after I woke up, that reframed a lot. I realized what was important, what wasn't important. I love being in law enforcement, love it to death, but it's not my life. It's not me. You know, I've got so many other facets to me, just like every one of you do. And I started looking at different things that I was able to do, things that I wanted to do. You know, there's a lot when you take a lot for granted. You take for granted every day that you can get up, that you can walk, that you can go out, you can look at the sky, you can take a breath. You know, when somebody's telling you you may not be able to do that again, if that doesn't make you start refocusing or reframing yourself, then you might want to have your pulse checked because nothing's going to work for you. So I remember it was 3 weeks, I think I was out of work. I ended up getting strep throat. I ended up getting pneumonia. Because if you've never seen that surgery, heard about it, whatever, they go in through the front. I don't know if you can see it because of the lights, but I've got two big scars here. They go in through the front and you cannot eat afterwards. So from going where I was taking all the sugar out, taking all the crap out of my diet, I pretty much was eating ice cream. And again, you know, I had no desire for ice cream or sugar, anything. After the first 2 weeks of doing that diet, I had no desire for it. And I had to retrain myself because that addiction started again. If you've never gotten off sugar, it's like heroin. It's how bad it is. For that first 2 weeks, you are just the nastiest person in the world. You're no fun to be around. You just want to punch stuff. But again, another story for another night. And I'm rambling on, so I'm trying to wrap this up quick. But that experience gave me a new appreciation for what I had. For the simplest things. Being able to walk around here. Being able to hold this camera up in my hand. Being able to put my uniform on. You know, I went back to full duty on the day of the Marine Corps Marathon. That was my first day back. I was working the Marine Corps Marathon. And I gotta tell you, that was the happiest I have ever been to put a uniform on. And I went back to the doctor and I had the 2 weeks where, or the time that I was off, and when I went back for my follow-up, he was like, man, he's like, you look really good. I guess I don't remember what I was wearing when I went in there the time before the surgery. It was 2 times before the surgery. I guess I've been wearing bulky clothes or something, but I was in a t-shirt and a pair of shorts. And I was like, I told you, I told you I was going to come back. I kept it in my mind, and I told him, I said, I get that you had to tell me what you did. I get that you have to do that for liability. I said, but you have so many people in this world that you will tell them they can't do something and they accept it. And I could have taken what he said and just been, done the Eeyore thing and been like, oh, woe is me, I'm never going to be able to, and hunkered down and just accepted it. But I had to reframe what I was given. And I had to realize that I have the ability to control my thoughts, my beliefs as to what I can do. And yeah, there was a chance that I might have not been able to walk again, but that wasn't what was going on in my mind. He had to tell me that for liability purposes, because that's what he's going to do. But I didn't have to accept it, and I didn't. And I think it was my mindset that put me in that place I was able to be in. And 6 years after the last time that I fought, I had a buddy of mine that had trained, just a monster, awesome jiu-jitsu player. And, he was a monster, but he was one of the best instructors. The guy it's no work for him when you watch him, but he was a good instructor, and he kept telling me, come up, come up, we'll go through some stuff, we're not going to do any hard rolling, we're not doing any of that. So I finally, for months, I wouldn't do it, and then finally I went up and I said, look, I want you to show me some stuff, but I'm not going to roll, we're not doing that, and don't grab my head. And he was like, yep, and I trusted him. That's the only reason I did it. And he didn't. We didn't go hard at all. He definitely didn't go hard, because I was no match for him in the least. But it felt great to do it in a controlled environment, and be able to put the gi on again, and to be able to go out there and just kind of go through the motions. But the next day I got up, and I was like, that was fun, but again, not me anymore. It's not worth the risk. It's not worth not being able to do the things that are truly important, like play with my kids, like be able to go out for walks, be able to talk to you guys. So the point of this long rambling, and I really need to learn how to tighten these up, but you have the ability, and I'm not saying that everybody has the ability, and that, trust me, there's been many struggles I've had in my life, PTSD being one, the depression, anxiety. You need help. Sometimes you need medication. You need people to work with you. But when you can keep your mind focused, and it's hard to do that sometimes, doing Tony Robbins stuff, it's, the cheesy infomercial guys you see, and that's probably how I sound to some folks. Put notes around your house, write in your journal, just put positive things in there. If you want to compete, I'm working towards competing. Every day I'm going to do something to get better. Have those reminders so everywhere you go, you see them. When you go to the academy, how do they teach you? You fire 1,500, 200 rounds for your training. It's probably more than that now. You handcuff people 1,000,000 times over and over and over, because it ingrains it in your head. When you get on social media, when you look at negative stuff, when you allow people to stay in your life, that do nothing but put you down and tell you you're worthless, tell you that you will never amount to anything, tell you you're fucked up, tell you that you have mental health, you have mental issues, you're broken. That's what's going to stick with you. Don't let anybody guide where you're going. Put the notes around the house. Put a journal every morning. Look at it. I kept one in my cruiser, one in my house with the same stuff in it, and every morning I got up and I looked at those. I think it was like 10 lines, and I looked at it because there were days where I felt like crap. There were days I didn't want to move. There were days when I was struggling, when I was in pain, but I tried to stay focused as much as I could. This is not easy, and I hope I'm not giving anybody the impression for a second that this is going to be something that's easy. When you struggle with mental health, when you struggle with trauma, when you carry the weight of the badge, there's nothing easy about it. Every day is a completely new adventure. Good, bad, indifferent. But you've got to do your best to stay focused. Don't allow this to become your life. When you step back and you look at yourself from that outside in, when you hear yourself talking to somebody and they say, oh, describe yourself, and the first thing you do is say, I'm a cop, I'm a soldier, I'm a firefighter, I'm a dispatcher. That's not good. You should be a father, a son, a brother, a sister, a friend, an adventurer, a writer, God-fearing man, woman, whatever it is for you. That's what you should be. You should be you. Because at the end of the day, this job ain't going to be here for you. At the end of the day, this badge is going to be hanging on your wall in a shadow box. And when you walk out of that department, very few people are going to remember who you are. But your family, your kids, your true friends, the ones that you have made outside of the realm of first response and military, the people that are there for you when you're down, the people that are there for you when you're up, and there's nothing, they're not in it for them. They're in it because they love you, and it makes them happy to be around you. That's what you need to make sure is in there when you start doing this refocusing. It takes one day to clean the physical garage. It takes you 1 minute for trauma to impact you for years, for a lifetime. And it can take a lifetime of being focused to ensure that you are good. It's a struggle. Don't think it isn't, and don't get down when you realize that it is going to be a struggle. Surround yourself with good people. And if somebody's not there for you, or somebody tells you, I'm going to do my best to be there for you, but I can't guarantee it, don't be offended by that. Be proud of the fact that you have that person that is honest enough with you to tell you, I'm going to take care of me first so that I can be there for you. I hope you guys got something little out of this. Just remember, it is okay to not be okay. Every one of these videos that I see from the folks doing the ruck, the folks that are just, they're watching these videos. Joe this morning had just it was, I think, a 4 or 5 minute video, and awesome. It hit me right where I needed to be hit to get the day going. You guys inspire me. The comments, they inspire me. They make me feel great. Again, like I said yesterday, it makes me feel like me walking around looking like a fool with this big old weight vest on under here, looking like my back and my chest extend out another foot off of my body. It makes me feel like there is a purpose to this, and that hopefully one person out there, if I reach one person, I have succeeded in what I want to do. Every time I speak, just one person, that's my goal. And every time before I speak, whether it's on here or whether it's when I walk on stage, I close my eyes and I ask God to give me the words to reach somebody. Whoever it may be, just give me the words, because I sure as hell am not graceful enough to come up with anything that I do by myself. So I hope you listen tonight. I hope somebody that sees this, somebody that saw the video earlier, I hope it reaches out to you. I've kept you guys here for an hour now. If you made it through this, kudos. I don't know that I could have made it through this, but I start talking and lose track of time. So you guys take care of yourself. Be good to you. And after you've been good to you, find somebody else to be good to. Buy somebody's coffee in line behind you. Smile at a stranger. Ask somebody how they're doing. Do something good. We've seen far too much negativity, especially in the last few months. Bring some positive to this world. If you're struggling, reach out and ask for help, because it's okay to not be okay. For day 13, the weight of the badge is real. Take care of yourself. Be safe. God bless you. And we're going to take this young lady in the house because she's getting worn out. Have a great night, guys.